Hitchcock Cross talking to you. We are going to read the demand letter here from Mr. Jason Hitchcock, Miss Bethany Eskro, and Miss Heather Haggerty to the City of Amery back in April. That's April 28th, 2023. I don't think any other primary source document is going to explain what led up to the interrogation, Chief Hainzel's interrogation, the City of Amery's interrogation of Bethany Eskro, that so many people have now watched and found to be as deplorable as I have. So I think this will go a long way to explaining what the heck happened here. So please join me. All right. So this is a letter from my office, Cross Law Firm here, to the mayor, Chad Leonard, the city administrator, Patty Bjorklund, and then the alderpersons for the city. These people here, Sharon Marks, Sarah Flanham, Eric Elkin, Rick Van Blair, Mike Manor, and Michaela Thompson are all the alderpersons, the sort of called judges here in the videos of the hearing of the Bethany Eskro grievance. They are also the people who refused to hear testimony from Mr. Jason Hitchcock. So let's all keep all that in mind. Dear City Administrator and City Council members, I represent the above-named City of Amery employees who collectively represent over 24 years of good service to the Amery Police Department. From what I understand, these city employees are also citizens of the state of Wisconsin, use their free speech rights to raise issues for you to consider when making your decision to appoint a chief based on publicly available information. What is at stake here is the right to be free from retaliation for exercising their constitutionally protected free speech rights, not whether their concerns were underfounded or even self-serving. An American response to free speech should be more free speech, not censorship. Censorship usually backfires and invites more attention. Those were prescient words, huh? Almost like we could see what was going to happen before they did it. Here it is Amery's retaliation that will draw more attention to the police chief's qualifications than anything my clients could have done. And this is back in April. Although I am only in the preliminary stages of my investigation, I write to you now in the hopes of resolving these claims short of formal litigation. The City of Amery or its administration is apparently aware of its legal predicament because, as threatened by the mayor and the Amery administration and the police department, are retaliating against my clients, especially Lieutenant Hitchcock, with the evident purpose of forcing their resignation. I hope that cooler heads can prevail, because I can assure you that further retaliation will only lead to greater liability. And here we get to my understanding of the facts at this time here. I think we've got more information that's come up, but again, we're going back here to April 28th of 2023. All right, on January 19th of 2023, my clients filed an ethics complaint in response to a threat by Mayor Leonard to then interim Chief Hitchcock, suggesting that there would be consequences as per the confidentiality agreement if Hitchcock, Eskro, and Haggerty repeated the allegations against then-candidate for police chief Stephen Hainzel brought to their attention by a member of the public. I'll admit that that sentence could probably be broken up into more, but no criticism like self-criticism. All right. I understand that while Mr. Hainzel was being considered for police chief, members of the public identified certain online media containing images of Mr. Hainzel's wife. Initially, a citizen brought this to the attention of my clients, who brought it to then interim Chief Hitchcock, who raised the issue with the city administrator, the mayor, Chief Leonard, and ultimately the Common Council. Apparently, the internet image did not stay a secret and predictably became public knowledge in Amery through no action of my clients. I have attached a copy of my client's ethics complaints because it explains the facts better than I could, and because it also shows that the City of Amery government at all levels knew about the allegations against Mr. Hansel and hired him nevertheless. Naturally, you have every political right to hire Mr. Hansel, and I know some have accused Mr. Hitchcock and others of attacking Mr. Hansel because Mr. Hitchcock wanted to be police chief. I want to address that issue head on because it underscores the fact that Mr. Hansel's wife's online presence is known to the Amery public, and Mr. Hitchcock was initially doing his duty to alert the city of Amery to the potential problem with one of the candidates for police chief, which he did only after speaking with the city administrator. I also understand that Mr. Hansel's wife's photos were only the tip of the iceberg of Mr. Hansel's bad judgment. Indeed, because of threats of the mayor, Hitchcock, Eskro, Haggerty, and many other Amery citizens began to investigate Mr. Hansel. It took me all of 10 minutes searching to determine that Mr. Hansel was stuck in a low-level position in the Milwaukee Police Department and had no management experience, let alone running a police department. Based on these freely available sources, my clients continued to try to hold the city accountable for hiring a police chief so apparently lacking in management ability. Such advocacy is constitutionally protected and natural for anyone who cares about law enforcement in Amery. The mayor threatened Mr. Hitchcock and Miss Eskro and Miss Haggerty by telling Mr. Hitchcock to silence his subordinates and threatening consequences under some confidentiality policy. Mr. Hitchcock and Miss Eskro and Miss Haggerty did not stop advocating for a proper review of Mr. Hansel before appointing him to police chief based on publicly available information. The mayor, the city administrator, and now police chief Hansel have followed up on the threats made by the mayor. Okay. I understand Administrator Bjorklund told Mr. Hitchcock that she wants him to stay on board and that the city would compensate Mr. Hitchcock for all of his hard work with the bonus, which was added to Jason, that's Mr. Hitchcock's paycheck. Administrator Bjorklund also told Mr. Hitchcock the importance of the confidentiality of the matter that has taken place, meaning the scandalous social media fiasco. So I think there we need to compare the offer of additional money and the statement that we need to keep quiet. The city of Amery retaliated with breathtaking speed and aimed with particular ferocity at Mr. Hitchcock. Responsibilities began to be taken from Mr. Hitchcock as early as December 14th. Mr. Hitchcock, who was interim chief, was instructed by Administrator Bjorklund that his authorization to hire a new police officer had been rescinded. Mr. Hitchcock was advised that the decision needed to be made by Mr. Hansel, who was not yet an employee of the city of Amery. On December 19th, the day my clients filed the ethics complaints, Bjorklund met with my clients. I think this is discussed, so-called mediation meeting that's discussed with at great length with Mr. Hansel at the hearing. In that meeting, Bjorklund repeatedly told my clients that they were doing the right thing by filing a complaint and that you come to me and you can come to me about anything and you can trust me. We'll see how that plays out. During this meeting, Administrator Bjorklund blamed the council for the decision to hire Mr. Hansel. Administrator Bjorklund also insulted council members, the current mayor, and a former mayor for making decisions that created more work for her, Ms. Bjorklund. Bjorklund also states that they, meaning the hiring committee, did not want to hire somebody with leadership experience. I wonder what that could mean. I mean, certainly it doesn't mean, it means not Mr. Hitchcock, but I think it means something more. Um, they certainly got somebody without leadership experience, so that we can say that they succeeded. So good for them. All right. On March 21st, my clients appeared and gave sworn testimony before the ethics board at a formal ethics hearing. During this hearing, Bjorklund reveals several things. All right, that Administrator Bjorklund gave Mr. Hansel a copy of my client's confidential ethics complaints before Mr. Hansel started working on the apparent advice of the city attorney. Okay, so apparently the city attorney was long, and so the gentleman that we saw during the hearing wasn't actually the city attorney. He didn't show up. He was otherwise occupied. So he sent his assistant there, who, by the way, I didn't think did a bad job by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, I think he had very little work with, but I didn't think necessarily that I would criticize his particular performance. But hey, all right. The city attorney, that another local candidate was actually the first choice of the hiring committee, but Bjorklund had heard that everyone would quit if they hired that person, and that ultimately they did not want someone from around the area. I mean, you would think that Mr. Hitchcock would be aware of that, but okay. Bjorklund said that she wished the city could go back and start all over because of what a mess this has become. Right, and this is back in December. When asked by Heather Haggerty about the retaliation of FOB restrictions and the mail, Bjorklund creates an unbelievable theory about the surveillance system on which Heather is an administrator. Okay, so we don't believe her response because Heather knows all about it. When asked about the mail restrictions, Bjorklund blames a very qualified City Hall employee who worked there since December for not knowing how to sort the mail. And I'm sorry, this is a little bit hard to understand here, but I think this is being written there directly to the city council because we're still pretty inside, hoping to resolve it at this point. At the close of the hearing, the ethics board makes the suggestion that the complainants and Bjorklund try to have some discussion and possibly prompt some mediation. Bjorklund states that we should come to her and let her know Hainzel's inadequacies, and she will meet with him every day to talk about him. And that might be where these classes are coming from. I don't know, but just that's my feeling there. Heather states to Miss Bjorklund that she does not know what we actually do on a daily basis. So that's the police department. So that may not be effective. Bjorklund says that we should all tell Hansel what his inadequacies are. That sounds like that'll be fun. Wow, that sounds like a recipe for retaliation. Let me put it like that. All right. Also, that we should all have a meeting and discuss the elephant in the room because that is the real problem. The elephant in the room being the social media discovery of Hazel's wife. And I mean, I from what I understand, there's nothing. These are, I would say, racy pictures. And to the same extent that the city of Amery has every right to hire a police chief whose wife is posting racy pictures of herself along with the police chief, the people of the city of Amery, or some people of the city of Amery, or one person in the city of Amery also has the right to object to that and say that I don't want a police chief who has that issue. And if that's raised to, say the interim chief, you would kind of hope that he would make that known to the politicians so that the politicians aren't in a position of not knowing that. But okay. On March 22nd, the day after the ethics hearing, Mr. Hitchcock is summoned to a meeting with Bjorklund and Hansel. Hansel slams his fist on the table, claiming that my client made a personal attack on his family, and blames my client for the loss of income of $3,000 to $5,000 per month for his wife's social media operations. Hansel states that he was not named in the ethics complaint, so he will take appropriate action and discipline if the atmosphere does not change with admin staff. So I guess Hansel says he can retaliate. From what I understand of that, Hansel's saying that he can retaliate because he's not named in the ethics complaint. Okay. I mean, hey, I would say also the sentence before this here that says Hitchcock is summoned to the meeting. Hansel slams his fist on the table, claims that my clients made a personal attack on his family, and blames my clients for the loss of income of $3,000 to $5,000 per month for his wife's social media operations. This may not be the actual official letter here. I'm a little surprised, but this is the one that I found. So my point here is that this sentence can either be true or Mr. Hansel's testimony can be true, but both can't be true. So either my clients are liars or Mr. Hansel's a liar, but it doesn't seem like both of them. I think it seems like it's either or. So that's my interpretation of that sentence based on the allegations that my clients are making. I will note that Mr. Hansel does concur that he lost about $3,000 to $5,000 per month. That much is true, but he categorically denies that he feels that there's a personal attack on his family. So that seems to be. There's also counter too. I mean, you would assume that somebody would feel that there was a personal attack on their family. So for him to be sitting there saying that, that's troubling. Troubling. Because it doesn't appear to be true. But again, you will have to make your own determination based on the information that you have in the hearing and so forth about who you feel is more credible. Because I'm not saying that he's a liar. I'm saying that it doesn't appear to me that these statements can both be true. And based on my knowledge and understanding, I feel that my clients are more credible. But hey, I'm an attorney. So hey. All right. Now, on March 30th, Chief Hansel made statements to the entire department threatening my client's employment. I understand that Mr. Hitchcock, formerly a valuable and valued member of the police department, is now a lieutenant again, assigned to a night patrol shift. Yeah, you heard that right. Chief Hansel put Mr. Hitchcock, the former chief, on a night patrol duty. Because that's not retaliation. Oh, this is, of course, contrary to the state's police regulations for the duty of a lieutenant, but Mr. Hansel may not be aware of this as he revised the lieutenant's job description and stated that Mr. Hitchcock's primary function going forward will be patrol, because that's what the Law Enforcement Standards Bureau requires, right? Probably not. I also understand that the City of Amery did not provide a previous agreed-upon pay increase to Mr. Hitchcock, making him the only full-time city employee not to receive an annual pay increase, and has also outright stolen a week of PTO from Mr. Hitchcock, because that's not retaliation, right? No, why would it be retaliation? All right, while it appears that the City of Amery has focused its retaliation on Mr. Hitchcock, initially there were instances of retaliation to include Ms. Eskro and Ms. Haggerty, such as having their FOB access to parts of the building restricted, which limited their ability to perform their jobs. Also, the department sent them on trivial pursuit about the mail for a couple of weeks, which included all members of the City of Amery staff, and even went to the level involving the new police chief. Again, this is just sort of the petty bureaucratic retaliation that the city council will understand, and certainly the administrative will as well. I also understand that during the formal confidential ethics board hearing that the city administrator, Bjorklund, revealed that confidential ethics complaint to the incoming chief of police prior to him being on staff with the Amery Police Department. I think we saw that during the hearing too. I conclude that revealing this information served only to cause a hostile work environment between the incoming chief and my client. The city seems bent on forcing them out. Now, I'll sort of spare you this legal ease here, but basically, we've got a free speech claim, is what we're looking at this point, a demand for personnel records, and a conclusion. So, more than anything, I think I want to point out here that we really um, laid out what the real reason is for the retaliation, and that it seems based on this that Mr. Hansel just went after who he thought was the most defenseless there. So when you see him putting Miss Eskro in a locked police room and interrogating her while armed, um, that may be because he doesn't think he can get away with the same stuff with Mr. Hitchcock because he couldn't. So I think you have the full measure of the city administrator, and the mayor, who I think are also involved in this issue as well. And certainly you have the measure of the police chief, which I think is evident from the video as before. So I appreciate you listening to this background on the City of Amery, and stick with us. We'll keep you informed.